world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Warrior Parent Podcast. We're so grateful to have you here tuning in with us. Today, we are speaking with Kelly Cole of the Synergy Thrive podcast. Kelly's a nurse and a nurse practitioner turned energetic healer, podcast host, and mother of two who helps women heal by realizing their own worth and empowering them to break generational patterns and beliefs so they can live into their highest purpose. As a mom, she also believes in setting the foundation for our children to grow into conscious and balanced adults. And boy, do we love that. Welcome, Kelly.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. So, Kelly, I have known for about a week, but I feel like I've known her a lifetime. And I have a feeling that we're gonna be doing a lot more work with Kelly. I'm just so impressed with the work she's doing and the shift she's making in her life. And we are completely aligned on almost everything that we talk about. So we're gonna talk about some good stuff today. So again, welcome, Kelly. So I'm super excited because I get to speak to someone in the medical field, and I don't always get to talk to somebody like that. So Marci's probably like going, okay, here she goes. She gets to talk to someone in the medical space. But give us a little background on how you became a nurse practitioner, and then maybe a little bit about how you're making a change in your life role.
Absolutely. So when I was a little girl, I really always thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I have like a Halloween costume, I was a doctor, and I had an uncle who was super influential to me, and he would always just say, I'm like, what should I be when I grow up? Or, you get asked that as a kid. And I was like, I'm not sure. And he would always just look at me and say, you need to be something rich, kid. And so
yes,
I was like, okay, like what, so I had these ideas in my mind that I needed to be this high, grossing person, like had to be super, I had to make a lot of money. I had to be super successful, like all these things, a lot of pressure for that, not from everybody else, and also mostly for myself. And so to me, when I started getting into this whole thing, I was at college, and I remember going in all these different directions. I had a minute where I was pre-med and I was going to do biology. And then I was like, you know what? I just feel like I want to be a nurse. I think that nursing is amazing. I think that that would resonate with me a lot. And as soon as I started getting into that, it was like all those classes were lighting me up. I was so excited to learn about them. And so I really loved learning about that. And that's kind of where it started for me. And the evolution to me, like in so many of my roles in my life, I feel like I am always like have one foot in one side and one foot in the other side. So I feel like that's not different from what I'm doing now either, but I am like this translator. And so then it was like learning the process. And as I became more mature in my nursing career, I understood how important it was to be the translator and the connection between the family and the physician team, and how that was like extremely important. And the care team, needed to know what was going on, but I was like the translator between what they had going on and what was going on with like the thoughts behind what was happening with the patient. And then as I evolved, I realized I wanted more I wanted more control of what was happening for these patients and the experience. I wanted to be on the care team. I didn't want to be at the nursing part anymore. I wanted to be higher. I wanted to be able to write prescriptions, and it's different in different states. But in Maryland, you have full autonomy of practice, which means you can write prescriptions and you can have your own clinic if you want to. Like, you really can step into the full role of having like that care and towards the family. So then I realized that I turned into a different translator. Then, as a nurse practitioner, I was a translator between the nursing staff and the family and the care team again. Like, I still was translating, and I'm like, okay, guys, this is what I see, what's going on. I'm reading the room, and I'm seeing a lot of anxiety. I'm seeing that the patient's struggling. I'm watching the nurse, and she's fumbling with stuff, and she seems stressed out. And and the nurse said, blah, blah, blah. And this is what we should be doing and thinking about when we're starting to make the plan for this patient. So I'm still like in this role. Fast forward a bit. Through my own personal health struggles and some struggles with like my family, my dad got really sick. It was like this crazy 2 to 4 year time period where I got a new job as a nurse practitioner on the pain management team for kids. So pediatric pain management service that also bridged as a giant umbrella of palliative care, caring for oncology patients, so pediatric oncology. So it was just really deep emotional stuff.
Wow.
At the same time, my father was terminally ill and I was a brand new mom. This was
a
powerhouse in my life. It was like I had all these intersections happening at the same time. And it literally just exploded me I was either going to implode or explode. Like, I was either going to just like crumble, or I was going to step up and level up and figure out like how to, deal with each of these things. So it was all happening at once though. And that really led me into a place where it led me inside myself, really. Like, there was nowhere else to go. There was a lot of support happening from the outside, but that can only, I realized it just was only taking me so far. So I needed a lot of healing to be able to just support myself and support being a mom, support like my kids, and support my dad, and support my families at work who were struggling with their own kids being really sick. And so
that is the definition of a warrior parent right there.
Sure is. Sure is. And it's you have a lot of balls, but none of them can be dropped because they're all life or death. There's nothing that can be like, well, I'll just let that go.
Right. So
very intense.
It was super intense. And, people call it different things. To me, that was like the fire of like, you're being forged in the fire. Like, you are literally getting melted and like reformed. And, I know that for me, a lot of times I always come back to like, my spirituality has been so strong in this. Every time it has guided me in a way that I like didn't know that I needed. And like, when I wasn't sure what to do, I felt like a next step would appear in front of me because I just kept following it. And it was super important for me to kind of follow my path and to keep going like that. So the way that I ended up here, I kind of took a total right turn because I realized that in all of that, I was so stressed. My body started really not doing well. And I realized also that like my general physical knowledge of things that I was taught, even through being a nurse for that long, even through, being in the hospital and watching medical care happen, was that it wasn't reaching down into the places I needed to reach, number one. And number two, that I was like, I needed some emotional healing. And then the other thing was that, honestly, my body that I thought was healthy, like I was like, I could do like sprint distance triathlons. I can do like, I went out and did like a quarter marathon or whatever. Like, I thought that was like this epitome of like health and whatever. And I realized that a lot of the things that I was doing to my body were actually stressing it out. And I didn't know that. So I was like, I feel like I had a couple different paradigms that were just shifting and breaking down. One of the places that led me to really start questioning what was going on also was that in my practice at work, we had so many patients that would come in, and these are healthy children who should be healthy children who were having things like chronic pain already. They were teenagers. I'm like, this should be the epitome of your health. You should be running and jumping and playing and living and experiencing. And here you are, like stuck in bed, and you're debilitated. You're not able to like get out and live. What is happening? And we can't find anything. And so besides the fact that these patients were not being treated well, because to my mind, it was like, we need to dig deeper and figure out what's happening.
Don't just give them pain meds. These are
like
kids. Yes.
Or don't, and also validate them. Like, you know, they're pretty much like, this can't be real. We can't find anything and things like that. So one of the things, as I said, I really have followed so much of my spirituality throughout 2020 with COVID, working in the hospital with COVID, having my kids at home with my husband trying to work remotely with COVID. I really had to go. One of the things that helped me so much when I was going inside myself to heal was meditation. And my spirituality just grew as I continued that practice. And one of the things that came into the next step for me was building upon my intuition. So I am an intuitive, and I think the truth is that I always have been, but I really shut it down for a long time. So
I was telling Kelly when we had this conversation earlier that I was telling her about Dr. Bailey, who's on our board, and she would say the same thing. Like from the time she was little, she had that sort of sixth sense about things. She could see things, but she wouldn't talk about it very much because people would think she was crazy, and even her parents thought she was a little nutty kid and that sort of thing, right?
Right.
So yeah, you just stuff that down until the universe says, oh no, you're gonna use it. I gave it to you.
This is a gift.
Yes.
Well, and I remember that I thought everybody else, I went a long time not realizing that I was different or that other people weren't the same. I thought everybody just had dreams. Like I was very sensitive during dream time, during my sleep time. And I thought everybody just had dreams that would happen the next day or within the next few weeks. I thought everybody just had, certain feelings. And I think to a certain extent, everybody does. But it's whether how you're open you are to it or how much you've trained it to be open. But I would be around certain people as a little kid and really get that feeling that I didn't want to, like I would distance myself from them. Like I didn't want to be near them. And as I grew up and realized who those people were, I knew why. But I knew as a little kid, I had that sense about me. So anyway, I have then did a lot of intuitive training. I worked with a mentor. And what this led to was me having a whole different understanding of what's going on within people at the core of some of their stressors and a core of some of their struggles. And what I knew intuitively when I was working with some patients that were like, I have, I hurt here, I have pain here, I can't eat because this happens, like all these things. Suddenly there would be a situation like that and I could see it. I could literally see what was happening. And so it was very interesting to me. And it was mind-blowing to me. And it took me a while to even reconcile with what I was absorbing and what I was understanding. And so now the work that I do in energetic healing and in energetic reading is essentially having someone come, and we either do it at a group level or an individual level. And we literally allow space and time to look so that I can see what's going on, see if I can tell if there's like a generational influence that has persisted through patterns of generational lines, like your parents and then their grandparent, all of these kinds of lines that come down and causing either walls around your heart or constriction around your heart and like things like that I can tell. Or confidence issues, or just simply disconnect from yourself. I can even tell when you've like closed all the doors for like trying to keep yourself safe, that you are literally like walling off everything so that you aren't able to, so that you don't have to feel, And a lot of times, unfortunately, it doesn't allow you to feel the good things either. So
Right.
what we do in that time is we just do meditation and breathing to break through and try to allow yourself to release the things that are getting stuck in there.
Yeah. I'd love for you, because I'm super interested in this myself, is talk more about the generational disruptions, the generational patterns that you see. I'm a huge fan of Gabor Mate and all of the work that he does. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, first I want to say, we know, like, through our research with epigenetics, that things are literally passed down through our genes. So one example I can think of is they had like a little mouse family, and they would show them like, or they would expose them to like a certain smell, so like cinnamon or whatever, and then they would get a little like electric shock on their paw. So that was literally wiring their brain to understand that this smell equals pain, and then they're fearful of the smell. So then they would retract or have fear symptoms displayed whenever the smell was present. The interesting part is, like, that makes sense, right? It's like Pavlov's dog. We know, like, those things are connected. But even the generation down and the generation down from that, like, it would keep happening. So those mice in the next generation and the next generation, they never experienced the actual electric shock. They never experienced that in real life for themselves. But there was an ingrained fear of that smell. So it's literally, through science, like, these things have been proven. It's literally in us, and they're passed down through genes. So it's like this hardwired experience that your brain is afraid of, your body's afraid of. You have a physiologic reaction, and you might not even know why. So one of the things that I really love is not only talking about how, as a warrior parent, you're going inside yourself, you're trying to heal, you're trying to understand what you need, but a lot of the time we're trying to do it also because there was some inciting event with our child that has made us be even more of the warrior for them. So there is usually some hitch point where you're like, I am going to do things differently. And you have to, like, stand up on that mountain and look for something else that maybe you weren't shown, maybe you were never taught, maybe you are going completely outside of your comfort zone and outside of the box that you live in and that you were, understood that you were supposed to exist in, because that that's what you need, and mostly too that's what they need.
So true.
Yeah. The generational breakers, those are the ones that are, like, doing this.
I know Debbie and I both relate with that.
We're all
hard.
If you can't see us, we're all raising our hands right now.
Bobbing our heads
all
up
of
and
us.
down.
And
I think any parent who has that moment where suddenly their kid is in trouble and you see it. And so all along you've been like, well, you got to get these grades and you got to do this, you can go to college. And then all of a sudden, all that bullshit is done. You're like, nope, right now, what does my kid need to be okay? And it changes everything.
It does. And it doesn't, you realize what matters and what doesn't matter in a lot of those situations, like what really matters.
Yes.
Well, just something Marci and I have been having discussions with other people around, especially in parenting, is that, so the kids acting out or having this issue or suicide, like all the crazy stuff, right? And then the parents, are not taking their own responsibility for it, right? They're pointing the fingers like, oh, I don't know why Sammy's doing this or whatever. But we find what we're noticing is that if the parents are willing to own some of that stuff that's residing, or a lot of the stuff that's residing in their own child, and start to do the healing themselves, that's when you can start to make the generational changes, right? Is that
Yes,
what you find to be true also?
I do. I
Yeah.
see. So working on energetic level, there's so much like expansiveness that I can really see. And it depends what I'm trying to call in and really look for intuitively. But when I'm really trying to understand the generational pattern that's coming down, you can tell if it's like, you can tell when it's just released from one part, that release doesn't just happen for that one person, but that release expands. And it doesn't just expand down. I think it also, to me, it also expands back up. Like, you have a certain amount of power in doing this work to release the emotions and release the patterns and release the things that are being stuck in there and festering, because it allows this break to happen between this thick line that continues on down. And when you break it, you not only break it for your child, you also had broken it for the generation before you as well. So there is a
Yeah.
certain amount of deep healing that comes in that. And some of the things, I know you asked this question, I did want to touch back on this. Some of the things are so deeply rooted that it's not something that you would be aware of or pay attention to in everyday life sometimes. So it's like this background program that's kind of running. It's like the background of your computer, like, oh, my computer is so slow today, like I wonder why. Well, if you look, you realize that it's got like 18 programs running in the background, and it's always using that. And oh, I didn't realize, like, I wonder what they are. It's literally like that. You are suddenly like wondering what's going on. And you, as the person that is working with me, might be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But for me, I literally can see whatever is coming up. Usually it's kind of like one or two things at a time that are kind of ready to be released and let go. And then it's kind of like layers. Sometimes it's like a bit of a cork that's popping, and one thing might lead to another thing. And then it's kind of coming out in waves.
Peeling of the onion is the
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And a lot of times it's something that's so almost intangible, like how you are loved. So if you had a family that generally felt that, let's give a general example of that the men in the family were valued more than the girls, let's say. So there were favorites. And this has been a generational pattern. So as a woman, we have experienced in that family just a feeling of not being good enough baseline. I like was born into this family just already feeling, because of the way that I am, like I'm not good enough. And I see over here, cousin whoever is like always, getting all of the accolades, getting all of the attention, getting all the claps for the whole, he did like nothing. And I'm over here like busting my butt. Like, what is that? And oh, well, if you look back, like that's exactly how it was for this generation. And then like you talk to your mom and you realize, well, this is always how it was. And then you talk to your grandmother and you realize that that's how they experienced it too. And suddenly this thing, you are like, 4 generations deep now, you're about to like go and have your own kids, and you're about to have maybe 3 kids, and one of them might be a boy and the other 2 might be a girl. And you are going to be in this place of deciding, am I going to keep that going? Or am I going to flip that up and make sure that no matter what, that everyone understands how valued they are. Everyone understands how equal they are. Everyone understands how uplifted and beautiful they are. Like, it's like this little underlying thing that's there that is causing this giant ripple effect that you didn't even see or acknowledge or understand. And you kind of just thought it's the way that it is.
Yeah.
It is that level of shift that is released when we acknowledge it, or we're just come to have an awareness of it. Even sometimes just even getting awareness of it suddenly allows you to work on it.
It's interesting that we're all sitting here now. Marci and I may be a level above you. Like I could probably be your mom, Kelly, but this for Marci and I, this thing that you're talking about of being a woman, right? That tends to make us overachieving kids, right? And
Yeah.
that was me. That was Marci. Like, I'm just trying to get noticed here. Is anybody, hello, look
Yeah.
at all these things. And then you
Right.
grow up and, you know, you're 60 and nobody still knows what you do, or that's my case anyway. I'm not speaking for Marci, but right. So when you think about so not just one person at a time, that's how we might heal that. But if you think about the world as a whole and women as a whole, right, that's enormous. That just that one thing,
Mm.
just that
Well,
one little change
because
could
you can look
disrupt
at
the
it
world.
at the
Yeah.
microcosm of this one person and their immediate family. But even
Yeah.
looking at that seems big sometimes. And then
Yeah.
if you continue that, like you are right now, having this epitome and this realization to it is woven in the fabric of society,
Yes.
my experience, my country. And then you go into expanding upon that, even like you just are right now, and thinking, this is woven into the world, into the collective. It is woven
Yes.
into our experience of life as women on earth. Like this is the stuff that starts, your brain starts like, oh, because it's like overwhelming sometimes. But
Yes.
the generational pattern applies a lot of times so much to exactly how you're talking about it. Yes, so much of what I see is one person and one person's experience, and that's exactly what I see for that person. But a lot of times too, because it's interesting, I'll see how I just, and this might be weird for people who aren't intuitive or have never experienced this, but the way that I see it, it's almost like little pictures a lot of times. And so what I see on a person is kind of just right around their heart, just right around them.
Mm.
But when I see and I understand how much of that is coming in from the outside, I see it as a giant cage over like their whole being and their whole world. And then I see like an even bigger one sometimes for this, the way that we're talking about it. And so sometimes we will literally work on breaking each layer of that whole experience and then calling in like what we want it to be instead.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
can we speak to the ripple effect of that,
Mm-hmm.
of calling in the energy of like the collective of everybody and like feeding it love and equality and beauty instead of keeping that chain on it. Like it's literally, that's what we're doing. So we're rewriting the story. We talked a bit earlier about like hardwiring in your brain and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
We are through subconscious and deep in that meditation place, through meditation and breath. We're literally rewiring the subconscious at all of those different levels. And it does create a ripple effect as well out
Yes.
beyond that.
Yeah. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, everyone's mind is completely blown right now. Like, wow, that's
Yeah.
so amazing. That's so beautiful. You know, Marci and I, we talk a lot about about the new generation, these young kids coming up, and we do want to talk about your being a parent, but Marci and I feel like we are those who are supporting our youth in their time of being here right now, right? Because they have a certain sensitivity, they have a knowing and an understanding of what is really going on in the world. You know, the all the government and the guns and the nonsense, they're done with, they're done with it. And Marci and I feel like we're the advocates for those kids. Like, and I think Kelly and I had this very deep conversation. That could be a whole nother podcast, but I think, you know, it feels like a protective thing for us to protect them from the nonsense so that they're not getting the wiring, right? If we can catch
Right.
them before the hardwire happens and just
Yeah.
let them have their knowing, like
Yep.
we could change the world, right?
Absolutely. Oh, there's so many things I want to say on this. So, first of all, I think that our children are our teachers in so many ways. That's not something that, my grandparents, especially, or my parents even would have wanted to accept.
No.
It was very much, you are the child and you will blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So I am already in the place where I'm like, you are my little teacher. And I know that now. Mommy's teaching you a lot of things, and daddy, but, there's so much that you have to know. To me, when I'm looking at like the span of somebody's whole entire life, and this doesn't have to do with religion or anything else, it simply has to do with the fact that, to me, we all come from this beautiful, loving energy, and we're born here and we go back to it. And that's really how I think about it. And I just try to remember that those little guys are so much closer to that.
Yes.
And they're so open, and there's a reason that people, everybody will flock to just go look in the face of a newborn baby, and just, it makes you so happy. And they're just so full of like this beautiful innocence. And that piece of us is like conditioned out of us a lot of times.
Yes.
And I think that that piece of us is also just very open and knowing. And a lot of times we kind of shut that down. I know I shut that down as I experienced life. And it's part of my job, I think, as a mom to my kids, to try to allow them to understand that it is a superpower, and to not turn it off. Like it's hard not to turn it off, because sometimes it hurts, but like giving them tools to breathe through that, to allow, I love breath, and you guys have so many tools that you guys use with the core experience, but like there's so much there to be able to be said about, yes, you feel it and then let it go, because you're still meant to be open. Like that's how we make the best impact. And teach it. If somebody just would have taught me that, if anybody even would have just said to me, like, you're so important, you are like so incredibly impactful, like already, don't you know how powerful you are? Somebody even just would have said that alone to me when I was little, I wonder what would have happened.
Right.
I don't know, but I'm going to try my best to like speak into that thought and keep letting it grow, because we do have kids that are super intuitive and super sensitive. And I mean, to me also, on another part of that thread, I think that that's where the world's going, and that's where the world is going to flourish. This part here, it is a little scary and ugly. Yeah. And it is like a clashing of those ideas. It is like this world of like control and stuff it down. And, all the things that we know and that we've kind of experienced in the next wave is more about love and openness and working together in community. And so I think, I don't know. I think that there are ushers of that world, and that I think that there are people who are going to once again be the bridge and be the translators between, like, if I look at a person now who's just like, why would you let them say that? Why would you let them do that? Why would you let them XYZ act that way, be that way, whatever? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, thank you for that thought. And it's because like I'm like, we're going to like not shut that down for them. Yes. I know they said, Mommy, I hate that. And I am mad about this. And I know they had big, giant feelings. Yeah. That's okay. Like I'm holding that space for them. We're co-regulating together. And then like, we're going to move on. And then maybe later on, we're going to talk about, hey, like, let's, maybe not do that exactly like that next time. If you're feeling that big feeling, let's do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, but it is an interesting place to be standing in the middle between I'm going to say the boomers and the Gen Xers who were stuck in their place. And the little baby alpha, I think it's generation alpha. I guess my kids they're 6 and 8 years old, who are like, I am this way, hear me roar. And you're like, wow, this is so different.
It is. Yes.
I also think that so many kids always are like that, and that they just are told that they shouldn't be.
Yes. That shift is so important. And I love watching like reels and different influencers who are young moms who are using, I think the term is usually gentle parenting, where they're giving their kids space for that. So when the kid's throwing a tantrum, instead of, yelling or shutting them in a room, or timeout was my generation's thing, timeout. But now they're sitting down, they're getting down on their level, and they're just helping talk them through it. Like, oh man, I can see you're really having this feeling about that. And like you say, teaching them how to be with that feeling versus what, my generation, like when I was a kid, it was no, there's no room for that. You stop that right now, young man or young woman, or that will not happen. And, whether it's spanking or, it gets worse going back, obviously. Such a, it's just such an ineffective, detrimental way to treat, like you say, these young, bright, shiny teachers for us. And so I know for me, a real shift was from mom and dad are always right, and you don't question that, to with my kids, my husband and I being able to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I didn't handle that well. That was something I never heard, still don't hear. But to be able to then say, gosh, you know what, I did that wrong. And then see the shift. The kid is like, okay, like now there's space for, I mess up too. And let's move forward. That was a huge shift for me to understand that. And it really was like before thinking, no, you can't do that. You have to show up as the powerful one, as that you're the parent. You can't be wrong. Yep. Figuring out or learning that was just a crock of crap, and being able to be honest and authentic with your kids. Huge.
We're all human. We're just human beings. The other thing is giving yourself, I know you guys talk about having a pause. Sometimes, like if you're getting triggered and your kid's behavior is triggering, sometimes that is huge, even to be able to do a pause, because that reaction is so ingrained, and it's usually not a good reaction, is so ingrained, and it's what you were taught, and you saw it and saw it and saw it. And so it's like living in you. So part of the meditation piece too, for us, is like cultivating just that ability to put space between your reaction and then what you do next, taking that pause. Super important as a parent too. And all of those things to me allow the next step, the next choice, to be a different choice than what you were taught.
Had you just reacted versus that mindful responding. And another piece to that I this is probably more natural for you and your generation, but the idea of saying, okay, wait a minute, I'm feeling a lot of stuff right now. I need to take a moment, like even sharing that with your kid and saying, I feel like I'm not going to respond well. Now I need 5 minutes. Let's go and breathe or whatever, or I'm going to go and do what I need to do to care for myself so that I can come back and show up in a better way with you. Right. And for them to have that permission to do that
and showing, because then they saw somebody do it. They saw somebody go take a minute because they thought they were going to have too big of a reaction, or a reaction that they didn't want to have. Huge.
Allows you to not be perfect. It allows you to be like, oh, this isn't good, but it's okay. And I can take steps to do better, which just a game changer. Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh my goodness. I want to talk to Kelly for the rest of the day. I think there's two things that I learned from Kelly today. And number one is the term usher. Like, I really love the term usher, of like ushering our kids through the turmoil right now, and ushering them to the next plane, right? And integrator, like Kelly is the integrator, right? She's the intuitive, and I think we can all take that lesson to be better integrators in this world, as tricky as it is right now. There's a lot to be angry and upset about, but if we can all take a breath and try to be better integrators, it'll make a difference, I think.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. Well, Kelly is certainly the perfect person for the Warrior Parent podcast.
Yeah.
But Kelly, people probably want to find out how to do work with you. I know you have healing groups and one-on-ones. And so tell
Yeah.
people how they can find you.
Absolutely. So I'm Synergy Thrive on pretty much everything. Our website is synergythrive.org. And we are at the Synergy Thrive podcast. And then I'm on Instagram and a little bit of TikTok sometimes on at Synergy Thrive. So Synergy Thrive on all the things.
That's awesome.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. It's been wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much.
So fun. Love this conversation, guys.
Me too. And now for a moment about meditation and how it can help you and your family to self-regulate and mindfully return to a place of calm and centeredness. Our Core Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. Meditation is just one of these powerful tools. And through a special partnership with Donna Appadoni, we have created a group of meditations available only on our platform and via Donna's own website. Here's Donna.
There will be those who say no. Those who tell me I can't. I shouldn't. I don't know how. I hear them. I consider their words. And then I decide. For who knows better than I? Hi, I'm Donna Appadoni. I'm the person who writes and produces meditations for Core Experience. In theater groups, there's a game, an activity where people sit in a circle and they tell a story. One speaks after the other and they go around the circle. Everyone adds something unique to the story. The thing is, you can never negate what's been said before you. You can always add to what the person before you has said. And that's why the game, the activity, is known as yes and. You're always adding something of significance to whatever came before. It's a good thing to do in theater groups. It's a good thing you might want to try with your friends. And it's also a good way to live. No matter what's already happened, say yes, accept that, and then add something of significance to it. See if you can say yes to something today. See if you can say yes to everything today and tomorrow and maybe the day after that. You'll add something in your own unique way. Remember, whatever is happening with you right now, you can do anything you set your mind to do. I will not judge them. I will see their comments as their own opinions, with no effect on me. Except that they inspired me. To go farther. To reach higher. To be more. Because I can. Because I am.
Donna's book, called Drive Time Meditations, is a collection of 183 of her purpose-driven motivators. Drive Time Meditations is available on Amazon.
Thank you for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast. You can find us at coreexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our meditation segment is produced by Donna Appadone with music from Scott Holmes. The full collection of meditations is in Donna's book, Drive Time Meditations, available on Amazon and at donnaappadone.com. Thanks to Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beaton. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. The Warrior Parent Podcast is a production of Core Experience. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.